Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. And now to honor America, please join in the singing of our national anthem. Representing the three-time Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils, Arlette.
I feel like I'm at a game. Oh my gosh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Happy Devils Sunday! This is the Let's Go Devils podcast, season 3, episode 48, titled Better Treat Jersey Right. I am your host, Sam Wu, here with Shorts Guy from somewhere in New Jersey, Scotty in LA of Sirius XM Liquid Metal. And welcome in, folks. We are in our new primetime radio virtual studio B, somewhere in cyberspace. I can't tell you where we're at. Normally it's in beautiful New Jersey, but we're in cyberspace. It looks the same, but it sounds great, looks great, and uber reliable, all powered by Nova Product Design, as per usual, doing a great job. Guys, welcome to the podcast. Beer Baron is on assignment. He procrastinated. Now he's got to grade all these papers or artwork, or I don't know what he does. That's what he says. Also,
let's be clear. It's all his fault that he's not here. Okay, it's all his fault.
Yeah, it's all his fault. We had no ideas of the podcast, what to talk about, and then Scotty's like, "You better treat Jersey right, man." And I was like, you're right, Scotty. You're right. Tell us what you told me in the group text about Tom Fitzgerald letting the NHL know, hey, you better be fair to us.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty interesting article I saw over there at NJ.com, and it's something I think that we should, discuss and talk about because it's something we've never really dealt with before. This, just besides the lockouts and stuff like that, but this will be the longest off season in the history of the New Jersey Hockey Devils. It's going to be 9 months. The amount you could grow, the amount of time it would take to grow another human being. All right, that's the last amount of time that the Devils, no contact, no practices, off, all that. Not only them, but the other bottom 8 teams. Is this fair to them? And if it's not, do we get a losers bracket tournament, where, the bottom 8 teams play? Do they get a pretend, wrestling championship belt that they could win at the end of it and skate around or something like that, But as I was thinking, yeah, that's great. That's valuable experience. But then is that an unnecessary risk for some of your star players to get hurt? I don't know. It's a tricky question, and it's something that no one's ever dealt with before. What do you guys think about this?
Well, as far as like worrying about injuries to your players in let's say a losers bracket tournament, you could also have players wind up getting injured coming back from such a long layoff too at 9 months.
Yeah,
I mean you're gonna have to put in place some pretty good off-season regimens, and at the same time that's a 9-month off-season. That's going to be, that just blows my mind to think about. That it's going to be 9 months before we see any New Jersey Devils hockey. Now my question, because I admittedly, due to my busy schedule the last week, I'm not up to date on this, but is that 9 months to the beginning of training camp or 9 months to the beginning of actual games?
I think it was training camp, because I think it was training camps, if I recall correctly on the article. That's like no contact with the teams, the coaches. Because I think a couple of players are supposed to be skating on Monday, but the coaches won't be there. Is that what the exact? See, I gotta get like completely up to date on what all the restrictions are about players reporting and stuff like that, because I heard a few that are living still in the area are expected to report.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what, Scotty? We have fans listening in, watching right now. Why don't we ask them on Facebook Live, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube Live, Twitch? I mean, one of the greatest advantages of this podcast is we're really live. We're not fake live. We're live. So we're going to ask for some help. We can't think of everything. Yeah,
Matt and Ryan.
We're live. We're live
right now.
We're live as long as you listen to us at 9 p.m. Eastern on a Sunday evening. Other than that, we're fake live. We're fake live for the rest of the week. Anyway, Scotty, it sounded like you were going to read Ryan Mann's comment, which I was just looking at myself.
What about a losers? Yeah, what about a losers tournament and the winner gets to protect an extra player in the expansion draft? Hey, see, these are all sort of ideas that we can kind of bounce around.
What if you did a losers tournament? What if you did a losers tournament for the first overall pick?
Ooh. I was thinking of that, but the only problem with that, the players union may have a problem with that, Shorts Guy, because one of them is going to cost somebody their job if you play for that first overall pick. Or you give a $1 million bonus to the team, to the players, to win that first overall pick.
All right, Dr. Evil. $1 million extra. I like that idea of the tournament. That's a really for the first overall pick. That's a really good idea instead of the lottery.
Yeah, and then except you're going to have what was that? Detroit was the bottom of the barrel there. People are going to be complaining that they were so terrible, but then again, the bottom of the barrel doesn't always win the win that top overall pick. And then you gotta bring in the factor of, a cash bonus would probably be your best motivator for the players. I don't know. Some of them may not be on board with getting the next greatest thing that you never know if it's going to be a bust or not. With the losers tournament, you could maybe even potentially. And I'm just shooting from the hip here, so I have no idea if this is even legal with the CBA. What if you gave a losers tournament and the winner of the losers tournament got an extra, I don't know, $5 million in cap space to play with for an amount of time?
Are you running for commissioner? You sound like it.
That's a thankless job I want nothing to do with.
That's wow. I'm already real excited. I want the Devils to play already. This sounds great. This has got me like, I don't know. I like it. What do you think, Sam Wu?
I love it. I think that, this is if you're going to do experiments with the league, this is the time to do it. This is the time to do it. I mean, if you're a sports bettor, I know a lot of people are sports bettors. I know a lot of sports betting companies, sponsors like the New Jersey Devils, like William Hill, Caesars, all these sponsors. You know what? It will make us. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. We're just facts. We're not trying to promote. And if we were promoting. Okay, if we were promoting, we would let you know. We're very honest when we promote things. Like, hey, you know what? We're getting money for this, for that $35 million plane that we're trying to, achieve, and we're only $17 in. But anyway, so
I thought we got paid in free beer. What are you talking about?
At PJ Ryan's or Tavern on the Rocks.
I thought that was our payment.
Yeah. Yeah, we better call them to make sure they're still there. I don't know. I feel bad. I mean, the reality is we're all going through a tough time right now. But let's get back on track. Better treat Jersey right. I think by making that statement, the Devils. There are conditional picks right now that are involved. There is a chance a chance that they may not get anything out of it.
Right.
Other than their first overall, and look, not first overall, their own first round pick, and that what happens if that turns into number 10 or number 13? I was like, thanks. Yeah. So a lot of things can happen, but right now, also rumors have it move. Peter Laviolette, is it a done deal? Like, I'm seeing all these rumors. I know a lot of Devils fans want Gallant. Let's ask Facebook Live, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube Live, and Twitch. Who do you want to be the next Devils head coach? Who do you want?
See, Troy's got his opinion out there already. Michael's saying they need to go get Johnny from the Flames. I mean, everyone would love Johnny Hockey, but who are the Devils going to trade over there?
Yeah, to get a player of that caliber, you have to be ready and willing to lose players of similar or building caliber and multiple players, and it always sucks to see players leave. So if we're gonna get him, we have to make sure we're ready to give up. And then at that point, what is the price? And is the price too high? Because we do have a lot of young talent. And I was just kind of perusing that NJ.com article, doing my research on the fly here. It was mentioned that the Devils were coming together towards the end, and that was true. I think it's going to be, trading away talent that was just starting to gel. Could be, you could bring in a piece that could bring it all together, or you could upset that chemistry, but this long stoppage is going to upset all kinds of chemistry too, which is why I think this 2014 playoff tournament is wide open. I don't think you can really go on what teams were doing going into this. I think you have to put everyone on an even playing field. Yeah, rosters on paper look better than others, but I think this is going to be a very even playing field. It wouldn't shock me to see a real wild outlier from a play-in bracket or a play-in series win this whole tournament. But, and I hate seeing the Devils not in it, but I just kind of went in a circle and I completely forgot where I started. So my mind's everywhere.
To be honest with you, I feel like we got gypped. I think we got gypped out of this thing. Got the raw deal. Like, if you're going to get gypped, the NHL should do something. Like, maybe hey, those teams get an extra $10 million into cap space or something like that, or for next season, or I don't know.
I don't know. I like the idea of that losers bracket tournament for instead of the lottery. That sounds a lot more exciting to me. But we were just talking about the head coach, and I saw a bunch of people start rattling off for Gallant.
That's where I was going to go. That was the direction I was planning on going.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding me. I still think you have to figure out GM before you figure out a head coach. And if you're going to give the GM spot to Fitzgerald, then let him pick his coach. If you're not going to give that GM spot to Fitzgerald, then you're going to need to wait on the coach. I still think that any GM that comes in, if it's not Fitzgerald, is going to want his own person or people there, or her own people. You never know. We could make a bold change and get a female GM. But I think whoever that GM is should be able to pick their person for the head coach.
It seems odd that we still have this, not settled already, and especially everything that Fitz has been doing, like conducting all these interviews. Are they not? Yeah. Are they not allowed to? I mean, they're allowed to announce something like that right now, right? Or is it just like all work?
I have no idea what regulations or what hiring freezes the league may have put in, because I haven't heard any news on anyone being hired or fired during this time period. To my knowledge, I don't think any coaches, kind of like what is that, Black Monday in the NFL? You have that, that day after the NHL season ends where you see coaches let go. I know there are coaches out there in the market like Gallant and Laviolette, but you don't know who's going to be let go once we kind of get a return to play. And on top of that, there's a lot more coaches that may have been on the chopping block, but now their team's in the playoffs, so that could change their trajectory as far as keeping a job or not. It's an uneven playing field right now as far as everything when it comes to what's this team going to do, are we going to be allowed to play, who can we hire, who's available for hire. Like, there's just so much there that I think needs to be figured out.
Yeah,
that there's too much. There's too many questions right now. It's just, how do you make a good decision with too many questions like this?
I mean, those are all valid and fair points. Like I don't get what's going on. I really don't. I don't know if there is some sort of freeze or something like that, but they really need to make a decision. I know, Sam, you saw you sent in to our little chat, an article about Ed Olchuk, interviewing for GM. We know Pierre Maguire apparently, we've heard some other names rumored. So but if Fitzgerald is conducting all these coaching, I don't know, it's very confusing, but you just wish they would decide one way or the other and start, kind of moving forward on it. And also, if you saw in that article, Fitzgerald talks very highly of Nasruddin as well and the job he did with the team near the end of the season.
Leading to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost like, if you're going to stick with Fitz, why are you interviewing people? If you're going to stick with Naz, why are you interviewing people? And again, these could all be rumors that we just, are just hearing because there's such a void in any kind of hockey talk, any kind of hockey news, and people just kind of filling dead air with something. For all we know, for all we know, Fitzgerald could have been, signed pen to paper pending an announcement, much like Naz could have been as well. We just don't know what's going on. It would be nice to have answers, and it would be nice to know in free agency. I guess free agency is going to have to wait until after, who knows when the Stanley Cup will be, sometime September, October, something weird like that. So free agency is completely pushed off. Any word on you probably guys know as much as I do, any word on potential of a draft date or when the draft lottery may be?
Draft lottery, I believe, is this month. The lottery.
Yeah, I believe it's the end of June. Yeah, it's the end of June, and then
I guess not.
I'm not sure the draft. Yeah, I'm not sure the draft date. I know the tentative training camp start, I believe, is July 10th, 11th, somewhere right there in that range. for a
Yeah, for
training
restart,
camp, and
like-
then
Yeah.
and then tournament end of July.
Okay.
That's their tentative,
So
of course.
that's their tentative. Yeah, if nothing changes, and then you've got the Stanley Cup playoffs normally take about 2 months. You got to expect this is going to take at least an extra half a month with more teams. So let's say they get rolling by August 1. Let's go hypothetical here. August 1. 2 months, 2.5 months. You're at mid-October, normally opening day, roughly, for the Stanley
Right.
Cup final to be over. And I'm sure there's something in the CBA about they must have a mandatory window time off unless they renegotiate something. So we're looking at the potential of a kickoff to a regular season for next year, January, which I guess would
That's
fall into
pro-
that 9-month category. I'm just kind of working through it now verbally just to kind of make things right in my head. So you're looking at the potential of, if they go with that timeline, entry draft in, you have potential for an entry draft in the beginning of November. And then you'll have no more Canada Day this year for free agency. That was always a fun thing to listen all day about free agency and watching all those specials for Canada Day. So it's just, there's so much. It's gonna be a long winter.
I have a question because Michael Govich says training camp 7/10/2020. The borders, the American-Canadian border is shut down to end of July, I believe.
I think there's
Until they
some sort
revisit
of
that issue.
I think there's some sort of leniency for if they, for sports players or something like that traveling to or back. And they also, I think they have to be like back in the country relatively soon because they have to wait. They have to be like quarantined for 2 weeks prior to going into like that July 10th, right? July. Yes. Thank you, Michael. July 10th training camp. They have to have at least 2 weeks quarantine from coming in from their whatever country they are in Europe or around the world.
Yeah.
So I think next week sometime, right? What date is this? I don't even know. Like everything is all blended together. What the hell date is this? What are we on?
Today is
The 14th?
Today is Flag Day. It's June 14th.
So June 14th. So like the following week, not this week, but the next week coming up, they got to like be here to get that 14-day
and to start
quarantine
and to start getting tested, and hopefully no one tests positive. Like I know with the MLS restart, I think 2 or 3 players have already tested positive leading into their restart tournament, which could not be a good thing, or it could just be an anomaly. And the same thing, we're probably going to see a couple players come back and get test positive. And I wonder if you'll have. I'm curious if the players can refuse to come as well, or if they're obligated to be here, or if they can say no, I don't feel safe. What happens if someone says no, I don't feel safe? Are they going to be forced into coming back to play? Are they contractually obligated? They have to be there. And then what if there's so many questions, and we could spend the next 33 minutes of this podcast saying what if. And I'm going to throw another one. Let's say Alexander Ovechkin tests positive, and the Capitals are shorthanded.
What if Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals, half of the team asymptomatic, test positive? What do you do? Again, not to be negative, but I'm not trying to make fun of the situation, but that's the risk that these players are taking. And as fans, we should really appreciate the fact that they're giving an effort, unlike another sport that's disputing about money during this time, called baseball. It's like it kind of reminds me of that Family Guy, like it's not like being a Mets fan, and then it's like and the pitch and the season's over.
The season's over. That's right. Oh man.
So, yeah, I
we'll
mean,
have to
there are a
see.
lot of scenarios. That could go on. I'm assuming that the broadcasters are going to be doing it from the confines of their own home. You know, doing off the screen, off the
like
off
however
the
they're
TV.
doing the Korean Baseball League on ESPN.
Yep.
In the overnights.
Yep. Or I believe NASCAR right now is doing the same exact thing. I don't think the broadcasters are actually at the track, if I'm not mistaken. So they probably have.
NASCAR today allowed 1,000 fans in attendance, distanced, mask wearing, and it was mostly frontline first responders and military families that were allowed to be there. Next week they're allowing 5,000. So that's the first sport in our country that's allowing fans to be in attendance. Yeah.
Well, let's hope we all go the way of our friend. I don't know if he's listening right now, but our friend Campbell down there in New Zealand, because they've had 0 positive tests for like 3 weeks, and I think they just had a big rugby tournament or something like that with fans in the stadium. So let's all hope for that.
Yeah, let's all hope for sort of a return sports-wise to normalcy, and then for the rest of everything for normalcy too. I think sports returning is a great escape, and I think it would be good for everyone. But yeah, we're all going to want to be there too, and unfortunately, in our case, we won't be allowed to be there until January. I just can't wait till all these questions are answered. We're going to have so much to go through and to pour over once they make some announcements. But part of me thinks it's going to kind of come in dribs and drabs because you just don't know what's going to happen. I just saw someone, Michael said he mentioned if there isn't a repeat of all this with coronavirus, which is altogether possible. We just don't, we don't know what's on the horizons.
Yeah, that mystery scares me. Even this podcast, we're doing live events. That scares me as well when things resume. For us, December, January, we stress. Michael Govich says, I work at a hospital in New Jersey and take risks every day. We thank you, Michael. It's not easy. But what these players are doing is really for the love of the game. I'm just, again, it could have gone any way, but these players, the Players Association and the NHL, they got it right, and they're taking their time with it. Now for the Devils, 9 months. I mean, we're talking about 2004, 2005 lockout type, but the difference here is it's just 17s for about 9 months with no play.
Yeah.
What do you do in terms of conditioning, being in game shape? And the NHL's got to do something.
And that's kind of what I was hinting at earlier. Is you're going to have such an expanse of time with nothing, no play, no gameplay, no nothing. It's just how are you going to keep these guys in game shape? What are you guys, what are you going to do? You can only train for something for so long without, starting to slack off. Now, these guys are professional athletes. This is what they do for a job. I'm speaking from someone, that occasionally just says, F going for a run. I just don't want to do it today. But, this is their job. I do it just to kind of, stay as healthy as possible. But their game, you cannot replace game situation. And without game situation, it's, I can tell you it's going to look, and then think about it. It's okay. So we're 9 months. Yeah. But what about the teams that lose what about the teams that lose in the first play-in rounds, and then the teams that lose in the first rounds of the playoffs? So they're done.
I got an idea.
They're done before September. Sam,
I got an idea. This is what happens. Now,
Okay.
the first round is really not the playoffs. It's a round robin for teams on the bubble to get into the playoffs in this format, 24 team format, right? All the losers of that best of five round robin should play the bottom seven, which the New Jersey Devils barely got into that bottom seven. Had they won against Pittsburgh, they would have been one of those teams on the bubble, believe it or not. But, and have like JV Stanley Cup and a varsity Stanley Cup.
Oh, boy. I'm gonna go with the wrestling championship belt instead. I'll pitch in for it.
For the right to get that first overall pick and $1 million.
$1 million. Is like the Stanley Cup, like it's tinfoil. It's like one of those tinfoil homemade cups, or like the inflatable one. You know?
All right. I'm gonna challenge your idea there, and I just thought of this.
He froze. Okay, so you can't challenge. He can't challenge me. Shorts guys, backwoods internet failed.
There we
Yep.
go.
Oh, there he is.
Hey. All right. So.
All right, before you freeze again. Before you freeze again, I'll add to my idea having a JV tournament and a varsity tournament. As we talked to Phil Pritchard a couple weeks ago, there's two Stanley Cups. One at the Hockey Hall of Fame that weighs differently from the real one that the players carry around. Well, why don't we use both of them? I mean, they're just sitting locked up in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Let's get them out there. Anyway, I just wanted to...
Or just have one that clearly says like replica on it somewhere, you know?
made in China.
Oh,
right,
boy.
Here we go. Here's my proposal.
Reel us back in.
All right. And I'm going to move this forward too. So, here we go. You have the bottom seven, which the Devils are in, and the losers of the first round robin rounds. They go into a pool and they play each other, and the winner of that tournament starts off next season playing the Stanley Cup champion in like a Super Cup game, which then you can go forward and start every season off, and instead of this like loser tournament, you start every season off with a Super Cup game between the Stanley Cup champion and the President's Trophy winner to get the season going every year. So you start off with a little bit of a tournament type style game, and you end with the Stanley Cup, and you move that forward.
So JV versus varsity. I like that. I like that.
Sort of, kind of. I'm kind of going with like a European soccer type setup here.
Huh.
Well,
Just throwing ideas.
okay.
Oh, it's not bad. Well, I'm trying to figure out how to expand on your good idea. You know, I'm just trying to figure ways how the Devils would benefit.
Wait a minute. So every year, what happens if the Cup winner and the President's Trophy winner is the same team?
Cup winner, President's Trophy winner, the same team. Okay, so then you're gonna have to figure that out. Maybe you play. All right, so
You split the team in half?
No. What if? Okay, so let's say you have that duel, which Tampa Bay has found out that is pretty much a curse to get, since it doesn't happen very often that the President's Trophy winner also wins the Stanley Cup. So let's say you have the President's Trophy winner wins the Stanley Cup, then maybe you play the top team in the opposite conference for the Super Cup for that year.
Okay. I like that. I mean, but that's just the person that you beat in the Stanley Cup last year. That's the other conference finalist, right?
No. End of regular season.
Oh, end of regular season. Oh, okay. I got you.
So
no,
let's
okay, I
say
got
the
you.
Devils win the. Yeah, I mean it's a
first overall
possibility.
regular season.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a possibility, long shot, but won't happen. But it's nice to play these what ifs.
Okay. I like it. Well, I don't. Did we ever wrap up our coach talk? I think we got sidetracked, didn't we?
We did.
I like
Uh,
Nasruddin. I'm rooting for him, the underdog.
He was doing.
I don't
He
wanna
was
see
doing
it.
well.
It seems like we
Yeah,
got a lot of responses for Gallant here on the old Facebook page. I'm surprised
Because
no one is talking about Naz, though.
I got to tell you, when I think of Peter Laviolette, I think of the guy on Titanic. The guy that was a jerk to his fiance. He looks like that actor.
Billy Zane?
What's that? No,
Billy Zane?
Was his name Hockley or something like that in Titanic?
I've never seen
That's
the
that's.
movie.
Billy Zane.
You've never seen the movie?
No,
Is that his name?
Yeah, it's Billy Zane from Zoolander. Come on. It's a walk-off. Don't tell me you've never seen Zoolander either. Come on.
no, I've seen Zoolander.
Okay. All right.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
anything.
You're not missing much of Titanic. The boat goes down. Leo sinks.
I know.
Yeah, that's it.
I know.
Yeah.
The boat sinks. Just like I've never seen the movie Pearl Harbor because I know what happens historically. I don't need to see a
Yeah.
love story wrapped into a historical event. So
Yeah,
I
and they're
have
both
no
like 3
desire to
hours
watch
long too. Yeah, they're both
Yeah.
like 3 hours long too. So yeah. Mhm.
And I know myself watching it, I would probably get, all bugged out by historical inaccuracies just to dramatize the event. But I prefer not to watch. So anyway,
Just
moving
fast
on.
forward to the boat going down, and you're good. That's all you
And
need.
the boat sinks. The boat sinks in the end.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, this was coming.
I love
I
the
should
way
really
this guy just is holding on for dear life. When the camel goes forward, and he's just trying to oh man, it's so funny.
Oh, that camel was not ready.
It's like- oh, that poor camel.
He's just
Jack, it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful, Jack. I can't believe it.
Jack, score some goals, Jack. Come on, Jack.
I think that's the longest.
Jack.
I think that's the longest we've had that on. I think that's the furthest into that video we've gotten.
Put on some muscle,
Oh,
Jack.
Put on some muscle. There's plenty of room for you on this board, but now you stay in the cold water and die. Ah. Bye as you sink. Bye, Leo.
Yeah.
I jumped,
Man,
you
Leo's-
jumped, Jack.
Leo's been in some movies, man. You forget about that. You're like, oh yeah. Leo's been in some really good movies.
The Wolf of Wall Street. That's a good one.
Wall Street. Oh, it was unbelievable.
Never saw it.
Never saw Wolf of Oh. Woo,
Nope.
highly
Oh,
recommend.
Yeah.
Very,
I heard.
very good.
I've heard.
Yeah.
I-
It's coming up
I
on
hardly
10
have
years
any-
for Inception. Well,
That was a phenomenal movie. I love that movie.
mhm.
That one was phenomenal.
Now, in other news, the New York Mets are for sale, and now we're seeing.
Meet the Mets. Meet the Mets.
Yeah. And now we're seeing that.
And buy the Mets. We're for sale
devil-
every day. Fred Wilpon, just give us away. Meet the Mets. Buy the Mets. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Sam. Will.
We really need Devils hockey back because we're starting to really go off the we normally go off the rails, but this is we're off the cliff. Anyway, Sam, continue.
Yeah, so are they spreading themselves too thin? I mean, it's like they buy the Mets. Are they going to be on SNY? I know it's a business deal, but
That's exactly what I was like thinking and hoping for. Like, it's been my dream for a long time to not see the Devils like be like treated as the second, like obviously the Rangers are going to get top billing on the MSG network. Like I would love to see the Devils like elsewhere. I know they have an insanely long contract with them, but I would love that idea.
Yeah, I would agree with that because you always get those games in our area when you either have like if you have the Devils, let's say the Devils are playing anyone, and the Rangers are playing the Islanders.
Yeah,
No,
the
Rangers
are
playing Rangers playing the Islanders. You've got, let's say, without the Knicks involved in this mix. If the Rangers are playing the Islanders and Devils are playing any of the other teams in the league, it's Rangers feed on MSG, Islanders feed on MSG Plus, and then the Devils are ostracized to channel, which for my cable appears 129 MSG Plus 2, which is in low definition. Or if the Rangers are on, the Knicks are on, it's like, well, the Devils again shafted to that other, and forget it. If the Rangers, Knicks, and Islanders are on the same night as the Devils have nowhere to go, and they don't have any kind of terrestrial radio.
Right.
I'll tell you what. If the Devils buy SNY with the Mets, you're going to have Amanda Stein 24/7 all the time on SNY. And you're going to get Devils content like no other. Amanda Stein 24/7. None of this NJD.TV. I just flip the tube. It'd be like Amanda's just reporting, doing what she normally does. Great reporter, by the way. I follow her on Twitter. Get my scoop.
Maybe our good friend Erica, and Dano and all those will make the jump over as well if something like that happened, as they are part of the Devils family, But that would be, in my mind, just as someone that has always just irked me as a fan, just being that, number 2 or number 3. Now that I'm out here in LA, most of the games I watch are on the NHL app now. But, oh my God, when I was living in Hoboken for, the 10 years before I moved out here, and I would have to watch a non-high definition Devils game because they were on like MSG 2 or something, or MSG plus 2 or something like that. And it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like the Rangers home feed and then like the Islanders away feed if they're playing each other, like, and it's just on. It used to drive me crazy that I wouldn't be able to do that. So,
and you know what? You know what? If the Devils do, because MSG. Part of the MSG network, MSG, the arena, Rangers, Knicks. But if the Devils owners buy SNY, I think they should play this on their first day of ownership.
Xavier Maverick. Good way.
Lead has good.
Is that Jean what is his name? Jean Renault?
That is
professional
only
good.
That is the only good 30 to 45 seconds of that movie. I love Godzilla movies, and that movie, aside from that one scene, is atrocious.
Yeah.
That's the only good
really
part of
bad.
that movie. Oh,
I think the only other that and Rage Against the Machine. I think that's what they recorded that song "No Shelter" for. It be no shelter here. I think it was for that. I think it was for the soundtrack. I could be wrong. And wasn't that the Puff Daddy Led Zeppelin Kashmir mashup thing that they did for that movie?
I do not know.
I'm pretty sure.
I do not know because aside from that scene, I've blocked everything from that movie out of my memory. I mean,
So can you imagine?
I've got a Godzilla print behind me. Like I love the movies, but that one was horrendous.
Can you imagine if the Devils ownership has SNY and they start, and Scotty, you should know this in the media industry, TV and radio like to consolidate sometimes with these mergers, whatever. Can you imagine if Gary Cohen is doing play-by-play?
For the Devils?
Yeah, for the Devils,
That would be imagine if they brought over Kanji and then, Kanji's got to do something else and we'll just have Gary Cohen fill in. That would be pretty amazing.
I just had a thought too. Let's say the sale goes through and Mets and Devils have same ownership group. Does that open the door to a New Jersey Devils versus anyone Winter Classic at Citi Field?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Devils, you could, and you know what you could do? You could do Devils Islanders Winter Classic at Citi Field. Since
that
it's
would be so
pretty
good.
much the Islander side of the island in the city.
Mhm.
But I'm curious if that would almost guarantee a Devils Winter Classic at Citi Field, which I love going to Citi Field. It's just an awesome stadium.
Amazing.
That would be a great place for a Winter Classic, and I think that would guarantee the Devils in. Because I'm curious who owns Citi Field. Did the Wilpons build it and own it? Sam, do you know if they're owners of it?
I think technically it's just like the Devils Arena in Newark. Technically, the city owns it because to avoid paying property taxes, but it's kind of like a lease arrangement where, hey, we technically own it, but hey, you get all the profits, you get this, it's like a sweetheart deal. It's kind of like,
which that fits the model of what this ownership group did by purchasing the Devils because it came with the arena, so that it fits the model. So there may be legs to it.
SNY is the biggest part of the deal because that's what generates revenue.
Yes.
That's the moneymaker. You're lucky if you can break even with gate receipts in baseball, with gate receipts and the player salaries, which baseball does not have a hard salary cap. It's they have a luxury tax system to try to keep the payroll, fair to all teams. But it should be interesting. The last 5 years, I went to the Mets, going to the Mets games just to get away from all the Devils losing, and now it's kind of it may be weird. Could there be a last second collusion here where A-Rod and J-Lo teams up with the Devils group, and suddenly you add PK and Lindsey Vonn, that suddenly it's a celebrity Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment Network. Maybe they'll rename it HS or HBSE TV.
I want to see those J-Lo and Lindsay snaps and Instagrams and whatever from the press boxes at Devils games, man. Those are clicks and hits and stuff like that. It's good stuff. Especially for this team. This team has come a long way in growing its fan base that way. We know as fans, this team was very cut off from everybody for a long time. And now, there has been that change. And it is good to see that sort of connection with people and stuff like that.
Yeah. And are you going to, if this happens, Scotty and Shorts Guy, are you going to park at the Chop Shop outside of Citi Field for the Winter Classic with the Devils? Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a train in from underneath the dump of Manhattan because you can get a adult beverage to go with the top and a straw. And it takes about the amount of time it takes to get from the dump to Mets Willets Point is about a 32-ounce adult beverage. So, no, I will park in the good old state of New Jersey and train my way in, enjoying adult beverages all the way. Responsibly.
You know what? You know what, Shorts Guy? if there's going to be a winter classic, we should rent a Let's Go Devils podcast RV so you can drink
Oh yeah.
in the RV, and we'll have to find a driver. We'll get our friend Kenny to drive and tailgate,
Do that.
and I actually have a story about the chop shop. Go ahead. Sorry.
We would obviously, if there was a Devils Winter Classic, whether it be Citi Field or anywhere, we would obviously have a Let's Go Devils tailgate podcast and party.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously.
Of course.
But if it was at Citi Field, that would be even better. Anyway, sorry, Sam.
Mm-hmm. And
No,
I think it was because John was hitting me up. We'll actually play the Godzilla soundtrack and have No Shelter on as well. I was right. I looked it up just to make sure. Godzilla soundtrack, baby.
Although, speaking of Godzilla and music, nothing beats Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla.
Yes. That
I
is a
love that
great,
song.
great song. That is an awesome song.
Does it
I
have
have many
cowbell in it?
covers of that song too.
Does it have? That's a good question. I don't know if it does, but it
There's
doesn't
no-
need it if it does. If it doesn't.
There's no cowbell in that one. That's Don't Fear the Reaper.
Will the cowbell guy make it to Citi Field for a Devils Islanders winter classic?
Cowbell man? Yeah, he better.
Yeah.
It'll be cold. But
Yeah.
Whatever.
He can't be
you
as
guys-
cold as Yankee Stadium.
I was gonna say,
that
you guys
was
were at the Yankee Stadium one, right?
That
Yes.
was disgustingly cold.
Yeah.
That
It was
is-
freezing.
It was cold.
That's the only time in my life have I finished a beer, and that beer I was finishing was colder than the fresh beer I got momentarily after I finished the beer. The beer
Yeah.
coming out of the taps seemed warm compared to what my beer was outside. Well
There are a
worth
lot
it
of-
until the second period. Well worth it to the second period.
Yeah,
Oh, that was
I had.
awesome.
I mean, I just remember I had heat packs in my gloves and in my shoes, like everywhere. It was crazy, man.
Were you with Beer Baron? We may have
I
crossed
was-
paths.
We didn't go. Like me and my little sis got tickets, and then we met. We were all meeting in like different areas. So Scott and Nikki, because Nikki and my sister are good friends. So we we just met up there because they were in the outfield, and I was above. I was in the middle tier above third base. I had a great view, like the boards, because you know how the boards would come up. If you're on that bottom level, you could kind of like lose sight of the puck. Where I
Yeah.
was, I could see. I was the first row of the middle tier, and I could see like directly down. It was amazing. I had the seats were phenomenal for it.
Yeah, because
I had very
I
similar
think I
seats
met them
to
in
you.
the outfield. I think I met them in the outfield. I actually had press credentials that day, so I was all over the place. I was
Yeah.
I actually met up with Doc Emmerich actually in the press box like around 10 a.m. and he looks at me. He's like, "Yeah, that glare is pretty bad." If you remember that morning, it was really bad. And then I remember meeting Nikki for the first time with Beer Baron. They were walking. What's that thing? Monument Park. I think they were out there. And we just happened to run into each other. And Nikki was telling me that she built Monument Park in about 23 hours, for the Yankees. Inside joke.
Inside joke.
Inside joke. Inside joke. We like Nikki.
We love her.
Yes.
Yes, we
It's
do.
just Beer Baron we're worried about, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. How come Nikki's doing all the work, Beer Baron?
Yeah,
I
why
mean,
is
yeah,
that,
you're
Beer Baron?
Yeah, Beer Baron's holding both kids, and Nikki gets things done. I mean, I gotta admire that.
Beer Baron can't plug in a mic. Nikki's outside building gardens and picnic benches and everything else. Oh man. Good Lord, he's gonna kill me.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, she's doing all his marketing as well. I mean, come on.
I'll tell you what. That garden was nice. That garden she built was really nice.
It was really. I was impressed. It was awesome.
Hey, if I ever bought the Devils and I needed a new arena built, I'm calling Nikki right away. She'd get that done in 2 months by hand.
Oh man.
Uh,
Well,
And
hopefully
we're
she
off
can
the road.
hopefully she can facilitate this deal to go through. You know, that I think that does open up a wonderful world of possibilities, though, for the Devils. You know, in TV, in broadcasting, but then like we were talking about, the ideas for Winter Classics and stuff like that. Their names are going to be up there and mentioned more, and not just always Rangers. You know, like it's nice to see us getting that type of respect. And also, like I said, man, having those celebrity owners, I think that's good for business as well.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine having movie night at Citi Field watching Miracle? You know, with being a Devil season ticket holder.
Yeah,
I mean, that can open up possibilities. And the Devils are, the marketing people are listening to this podcast. They get some of their ideas. That's what we've been told. So get it done, Josh and Dave. Get it done. Get it done. Or even better yet, I want a helicopter ride from Prudential Center in the middle of Citi Field.
Wow.
As a season ticket holder, as part of like being a member for 20 years. That would be great. Yeah.
Okay.
See how creative we are? Not that it costs any money or anything. Yeah.
They should hire us. Devil should hire us to do all this
Yeah.
stuff.
We know somebody that can build a helicopter pad on top of Citi Field. Beer Baron's wife, she can get that done in 48 hours. We can have that, we get all the proper permits or whatever, and she'll build a garden right next to it. If you paid her some bucks, she'll build a nice garden, once you get out of the helicopter, but no, we're not making fun of Nikki. She actually, believe it or not, she is very creative, and she's very, very good at building stuff.
Yeah, no, we're being honest. We're making fun of Beer Baron. That's what we're doing. Come on.
Yeah. He just stands there with the two kids in his hands, like, okay.
Gosh. This will be the last time he doesn't appear on the show.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, he can't control the message.
Always being on.
So. Yeah. And, we can have a city bike race to Citi Field, for the Winter Classic.
Oh, man. Well, there's a lot of interesting things still on the horizon here, though. But, as we talked about all show long, these are a lot of, there's a lot of fun, and we're joking around, we're having a good time, but they're all what-ifs, Yep. They're all what-ifs.
Yeah. And we're kind of stuck with what ifs now because we got nothing else. That's all we can do is just come up with these what ifs because there's no hard information on anything or anyone that we can actually pour through. But hopefully, with in the coming weeks, we get some answers on some of our what ifs and questions, which would be nice. Something to actually talk about instead of making what ifs.
Yeah. Well. We've been brainstorming. We're going to tell the audience that Scotty's got some great ideas for some fan interaction. Oh. Yeah. We're not going to say what these ideas are, but we are going to spend the next 6 months doing experiments with this podcast that we've never done before. Maybe bringing fans onto the podcast.
We're going to need your help out there. Yeah.
Also, I actually found a lot of Devils media guides from going back in the 80s, Hartford Whalers. So maybe we will have media guide madness where we open up the media guide and we look and be like, oh, Rangers Tom Poti is allergic to peanut butter. Did you know that little fact? Do you remember that incident, Shorts Guy? Tom Poti?
Vaguely. Now that you brought it up, yes, but up until now, no, I completely forgotten.
I remember reading either a media guide or one of those things that, passed out at the old Continental Airlines Arena, Brendan Byrne, for some people. I remember reading some fun facts, and when they got to Rangers number 3, Tom Poti, he is allergic to peanut butter, and I just so happened to be sitting behind the Rangers bench
Eating peanut
that
butter?
game. Well, not eating peanut butter, but just chanting. I was chanting peanut butter, peanut butter. All because of the media guide. You learn a lot of things from that media guide. Like he's allergic to
Sometimes
peanut butter.
Yeah, I didn't think you were going there. I thought you were going to say we're going to open it up and see like a big cigarette ad or something like that, from like back in the 80s or something.
No, I mean, maybe we should play Media Guide Madness. Like, what kind of fun fact are you going to get out of this, Because some of the, I was reading through it, some old Devils, old broadcasters, and some of this stuff that I was looking through had like, old phone numbers in them. You can actually contact them.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
The way it used to be.
It's like 1-900 kids, get your parents' permission. Like the wrestling call lines. Call Mean G to see what's going on at SummerSlam. Huh.
Well, we'd like to thank everybody joining us. Matt Junio, one of our hardcore fans, Michael, everybody. We'll be back soon. Beer Baron will be back next week. Till next time, let's go Devils.
Devils.